to and talk with people here at CNN, give your opinions, ask questions. It is called CNN Hotline. It is hosted by Jack Cafferty, a veteran newsman. And the number to call is 1-800-310-4CNN. I would translate that numerically, but I am numerically illiterate, so I'll give it to you again as it appears. CNN Hotline, 1-800-310-4CNN. We are at the very beginning of what is going to be a very long and very difficult period. We will endeavor to provide you with the best and most comprehensive and most careful information and analysis. I'm Jeff Greenfield. Thanks for watching. Please stay tuned for Hotline.
Sunday night, the end of the toughest week for America since Japan bombed Pearl Harbor 60 years ago. Tomorrow brings more uncertainty as the stock market reopens after the longest closing since World War I. By now, it's a story we all know too well. 5 days ago, terrorists commandeered 4 passenger airplanes and turned them into flying bombs. 2 of them destroyed the world's biggest symbol of capitalism, the World Trade Center. A third partially destroyed the symbol of the mightiest military power in the world, the Pentagon. And the 4th crashed in Pennsylvania, killing everyone on board. We've spent the past few days mourning, burying the dead, searching for those still unaccounted for, thousands of them. And now the war drums in Washington grow louder, stirring an otherwise peaceful nation to a common goal: remove these terrorists from the face of the earth once and for all. We'll talk about it and take your calls on CNN's Hotline. Good evening. I'm Jack Cafferty. The CNN hotline number is 1-800-310-4CNN. Tonight, 3 guests who are here to shed light on what to expect when the stock market opens tomorrow morning for the first time in almost a week. Where's the economy heading? We have CNN correspondents at the White House, at Ground Zero, the site of the collapse of the World Trade Center in Lower Manhattan, and around the world who will be reporting on developments, answering your questions. In fact, we have a call right now from Jack in Michigan. Good evening, Jack. How was your week this week?
Well, it was a little tense. I live very close to Detroit. We've seen a lot of race riots, and we've got a very large Middle Eastern population. But I wanted to definitely talk about the economy and what, as an American, I can do to help the economy. You guys work with statistics, not you, Jack, but everybody else on the panel. But you work with statistics, and I want to know how much money do I need to put into the economy every week, aside from my regular bills and utilities. Should I be buying Christmas gifts now to help the economy, to make sure that everybody understands that we are still a country we're ready to fight, we're ready to preserve freedom at any cost?
It doesn't sound like your confidence as a consumer has been affected at all by this, am I right?
Well, our family's gone through a couple layoffs in the last couple of years. We're by the auto industry. You know, we have some problems with that, but I want to make sure the recession does not is any worse than it is now.
Patricia Chadwick, what can the average person do? Is it a time now to make major purchases, or is there just too much uncertainty in the air, and should you wait until things sort themselves out a little bit, perhaps?
Well, I actually think the most important thing is not to get a bunker mentality. And I think this woman sounds as though there's no bunker mentality there. I think it's important for people to try to live their lives. I don't think they have to go out and necessarily feel it's important for them to spend for the rest of the economy. There will be lots of stimulus to this economy. The Fed, I'm sure, will be easing again. Obviously, the government is going to be enormously supportive in the rebuilding of New York. And we will see a tremendous amount of money. We're already seeing huge donations coming in from corporations who are already having their earnings taxed pretty hard because this economy is a lot softer. So I think for individuals, the most important thing is to lead your normal life. Don't get into a bunker and say this is the end of the world and I'm afraid to spend. But then don't do anything rash either. You don't have to spend for other people.
Fair enough. Patricia Chadwick is the president of investment firm of Ravengate Partners. To her right is Mansour Ijaz. He is the chairman of a firm called Crescent Investment Management. Mansour is an American Muslim of Pakistani descent and serves, among other things, on the Council of Foreign Relations. So you'll be able to talk not only about the markets and about investments, but perhaps about the ongoing political developments and the outlook for eradicating terrorism and some of the other things on the national agenda. And joining us this evening from Los Angeles, California, Larry Elder, who is a columnist for Investors Business Daily. He's also a talk show host on KABC Radio. I don't see, there's Larry. Larry, good to have you with us. We begin, this is the panel, these are the people we'll be talking to for the next couple of hours, but before we get to that, let's go up to the roof overlooking the site of the devastation of Tuesday and get the latest news developments from Garrick Utley. Garrick?
Thanks, Jack. The early morning hours just after midnight here on the east coast of the United States and here in New York City. Here are some of the latest developments in the news we're looking at. Well, Wall Street, as you've been saying and as we all know, has been getting ready to get back to work. There's a lot of dust to be cleaned up down there. George Washington was getting a shower, cold water shower. The opening bell at the New York Stock Exchange will ring at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time, signaling the return to business. The U.S. exchanges have been closed since last Tuesday. A few blocks away, no one is thinking about the Dow or the NASDAQ, only the search that continues and the clearing of the rubble there, the mountains of rubble. The number of missing and feared lost is still holding at 4,957. 190 people are confirmed dead. Earlier on Sunday, President Bush returned to the White House from Camp David, where he'd spent the weekend with his officials, and said to Americans, it's time to get back to work.
Tomorrow when you get back to work, work hard like you always have. But we've been warned. We've been warned there are evil people in this world. We've been warned so vividly. And we'll be alert. Your government is alert. The governors and mayors are alert that evil folks still lurk out there.
A few hours ago, 2 more arrest warrants were issued for 2 material witnesses. Precisely why they were arrested is not known. Details of the warrants are being kept under seal. And earlier today, the FBI searched an apartment house in Delray Beach, Florida. Authorities there believe that at least one of the suspected hijackers lived in that apartment complex in Florida. Both men are believed to be connected with Osama bin Laden, the man President Bush described as prime suspect behind Tuesday's attacks. Now, you might think bin Laden could have made more out of his life. His father in Saudi Arabia built up a multi-billion-dollar business. Bin Laden was not exactly a deprived child. Well, anyway, he is now the most wanted man in the world, and today he said, "Don't blame me." Bin Laden denied that he played any role in Tuesday's attacks. His statement reads, and you can read this closely along with us, quote, "After the recent attacks which the United States has witnessed, the U.S. government ventured to point fingers at me, accuse me of involvement. The U.S. government has consistently blamed me for being behind every occasion its enemies attack it." And he goes on, "I would like to assure the world that I did not plan the recent attacks, which seems to have been planned by people for personal reasons. As for me, I've been living in the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan and following its leader's rules. The current leader does not allow me to exercise such operations." Well, the rulers of Afghanistan are the Taliban. They depend on neighboring Pakistan for fuel and other critical support. Now, Pakistan has told the Taliban to hand over Osama bin Laden in the next 3 days or risk the United States launching massive military action against them. So we are now, Jack, really at 3 days and counting. Just one little footnote here as we get ready for Wall Street to reopen. The caller at the top of the program just a minute or two ago was very interesting in asking what she can do to help the economy. And of course, the markets that will open down here in Wall Street at the stock exchange are not at all emotional or patriotic. They're about cold, clear thinking. And I think one of the things we need to keep in mind, and perhaps the people under the greatest stress, are going to be those traders, those investors, those pros down on Wall Street. Many of them have lost a lot of friends, and they're still in grieving. And tomorrow they have to go back and make these clear-headed decisions. It's going to be a particularly tough day for them. Jack.
Indeed it is. All right, thanks, Gary. Garrick Utley with the latest news. The overseas markets, of course, had a chance to react to this tragedy when it happened, and they did. They sold off some, then they recovered. However, I would guess in anticipation that these markets may open sharply lower here in New York tomorrow morning. The European markets, as I was on the way up to the studio, I noticed are all down triple digits. They're getting hit pretty hard in the sell column. And Sir Garrick was talking about this mission. The Pakistanis have gone into Afghanistan to deliver this ultimatum to hand over bin Laden or else. What's your sense of what we're watching there? Is that the real deal? Is this international street theater? Is this rhetoric? I mean, if it were as simple as all that.
Well, I think that the United States has taken a different tact this time in dealing with the problem that bin Laden presents to the global community. And that is that in prior instances where he planned an unplanned attack or an unannounced attack, we would plan a similar unannounced attack, and we thought we had retributed. And now what we have learned is that these people have no code, essentially. They're prepared to hit us anywhere, anytime, and they can, in fact, do that. So
but they had indicated that before with the blowing up of the embassies in Africa and other incidents, had they not? I mean,
that's correct, but it's a different thing when you hit it on U.S. soil. That's
absolutely.
Something that they hadn't
Sure
done.
it is.
They hadn't had the guts to do that before.
Right, right.
I think essentially what the Pakistan delegation going to Afghanistan today represents is a sort of, look, there's a way to do this the right way, and it doesn't require blowing everything to smithereens. And if you don't want to play ball by the rules, then we're prepared to blow everything to smithereens. And I think that's essentially what this trip to Afghanistan today is really all about. It's fair play. And that, in fact, is vitally critical for everyone in the world to understand that America is a fair place and will execute its justice and judgment even in these very, very strange circumstances.
What about the concessions that reportedly the Pakistani government has agreed to, a list of American requests in terms of setting up several potential conditions for military operations, etc.? Can you trust the word of the Pakistani government?
Well, the answer is yes, but again, this comes with, there's a need to help the American people understand a little bit of history here, and that is that part of the reason that we're in this mess in the first place is because after the Afghan war was over, when we defeated the communists, we essentially got up and walked away from both Afghanistan and Pakistan. We left them to deal with the drugs problem, the arms trading, the refugees, and so forth. And essentially we allowed those societies to disintegrate, and then we sanctioned them on top of that. Now, if we do the same thing this time, then I can tell you that we're going to have much bigger problems in the future. So if the United States government is smart, and they're going to engage the Pakistani government at this moment, they have to do that in such a way that it's a long-term engagement to help essentially rebuild these societies. That's, I think, really what needs to happen.
All right. I want to talk some more about the potential military options, the foreign policy initiatives that might contribute to a solution, the potential use of the greenback dollar bill as a weapon in a military struggle, because there are suggestions that economically there may be ways to apply more pressure to some of these societies than the military ever could. But let's go back to the markets. We have a caller, Jordana from Rome, New York. What kind of week has this been for you?
It has been a horrible week. You can't even explain how it's been. But I actually have two questions that are connected.
Go ahead.
And one quick statement. We have spent massive amount of money, economic support, military support, all throughout the world. I guess one of my questions is how much are we going to get now from other countries? How much are we going to continue to spend in these other countries when we need it here? And the one quick comment I had was just, instead of African American and Arab American, how about if we turn it around and we're American Arabs, we're American Africans.
There you
We're
go.
American first and foremost.
Did you have a question?
Just if they have any idea how we are going to, are we going to stop the economic spending all over the world? Are we going to get any help back?
Well, that is a good question. It's a big question, and it has a lot to do with where these markets may or may not go. The American economy was weakening before these events. The European economies were weak. The Asian economies are weak. A couple of ways to look at this. With the additional spending that may flow from Washington in terms of tapping the Social Security reserves and spending money for military operations, et cetera, I guess economically that would work as a stimulus. But if consumer confidence dries up and people are afraid, then we get the reverse effect. Does the market open lower tomorrow? Does it close higher? What do you think? And we'll kind of begin there.
Why don't you start? You're the expert.
Yeah, and that's a question nobody knows the answer to.
Well, nobody does know the answer to how the markets will open tomorrow, but I think there is one important thing to the point of the question that was being asked. In fact, the reason that the United States has been able to help so many other countries in the world is because we are the most powerful. We have the strongest economy. We have a budget surplus. Very few other countries have budget surpluses. We have the strongest military. And in fact, as the U.S. economy has gone down, most recently, so hasn't it dragged the rest of the world's economies? And I think it's important. You mentioned how the European markets, were down, then rallied, and are nervous. I think they really are